What's good? It's Sam here, and I wanted to give a little bit of an update on my road to $100 a day online, and talk about the platform differences and just some of the progress. I'm going to have an update in terms of the numbers for YouTube probably tomorrow after I get the data. I'm going to let you know in terms of how I did in the month of November on YouTube in terms of the progress towards getting to $100 a day online. And two of the platforms that I use are Twitter and Facebook. So I actually just found this out earlier today that Facebook or Twitter actually has some analytics on it. I had no idea. It's as little as I use Twitter. I don't use Twitter very much. I just mainly use it to distribute the content I create elsewhere. And then like sometimes I will search a term if I'm doing something, say, related to working out or SARMs or something like that on Twitter. I'll search for that. So if I was doing something on MK677, which is a secretagogue that a lot of people think is a SARM, I'll search for that on Twitter and then go interact with some of the posts on there. I don't do that very often though, like very little. Maybe once every day or 2 days, maybe like once every other day or something like that. Not like a tremendous amount of time is spent on that. And then for Facebook, I have my personal page. I have a Stolt page. And then I've joined a bunch of groups. A lot of the content I do is slightly fitness related because it's a big part of my life. And if I post something that is fitness related, I will go into I will post it on my page, the Stolt page. Then I'll share it to my personal page, and then I will post it into the most relevant groups. If it's fitness related, I might have in the neighborhood of maybe 5 to 7 groups I share it in. Okay, so now I want to talk about the numbers that I'm getting relative to this, like get to the point of this, right? Well, I had to give you context so you know the amount of like effort I'm putting into them, so you could see like if they were relevant or not. And I actually do comment and interact with more people in the fitness community on Facebook in these groups that just show up in my feed, and I might comment. And I feel like I do that slightly more than I do responding or reaching out to people on Twitter. Slightly more on Facebook, essentially. Now we're going to talk about the reach on Facebook versus what Twitter calls tweet impressions. That seems to be the most comparable statistic that we could compare between the two. And then there's also on Twitter, there's the number of tweets, the tweet impressions, and the profile visits, mentions, and followers. And I might be missing something. Those are the 5 statistics you can look at. On Facebook, there's a number of other ones, but you've got post engagement. Well, let me just show you. So here we've got page views right there in the center here. And you can see, so I'm going to do Facebook's numbers, and then we'll go over to Twitter. So as you can see, I'm up 244% when it comes to, let me put it on. So this is over the last 28 days. So I just, right up here. You can see it's over the last 28 days. I did just update this from, let me see if I can refresh the page. So it's searching right there. It's going to refresh the page so that this way you get to see this data is actually live. So see this number right here, 14, right in the center, the 1493. I'm going to the top right here. I'm going to put it on this, and it will reload. So even though it only says, oh, I thought this said something else before. Never mind. Anyways, so total reach, the aggregate reach across everything was 2,761. I saw a decent amount of engagement, 1,000. The videos, there's 362, blah, 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 all this other shit. Now, let me go over to Twitter. This is my Twitter. I'm just going to refresh the page right there so you get to see. Okay. So this is over the last 28 days too. As you can see right below my picture up there, I've had 58 tweets and 29 impressions, 2,918 impressions. Now, if we go back to Facebook, I had 2,700. So 2,700 versus 29. Okay, so now the if you want to gauge the effectiveness of the actual so it looks like they have about the same, right? Like I'm actually getting slightly more impressions for Twitter than I am on Facebook. However, you also want to gauge, like, because a lot of times I'm trying to drive people back to YouTube, so you want to gauge how much is going back to YouTube. So then, as a nice way to tie that in to see if your effort is actually working, you can go over to your YouTube analytics, and one of the tabs in the YouTube analytics, let me see what it's called here. It's called traffic sources. So on YouTube, they track where the traffic comes from to watch your videos, and in the number one place is YouTube search. The number two place, which this percentage actually has gone up since the last video I did on this, but the YouTube search is number one. Google, and then you go to external, right? External sources off of YouTube. The number one source is Google. Number two source is Facebook. And then if you come down in here, and this is over the last 28 days as well. Okay, so then if you come down into, let me just show you. Okay, so let's go to the top here. This is over the last 28 days, the 4th through the 1st. Okay, now let's go down here. These are the top external sources. Does it say that anywhere? No, it does not, but here, I'll show you. Traffic sources, and then you come in here. This is what I was saying, YouTube search. Whoops, YouTube search is the biggest, as you can see, by 54%. External is the next link, and that's at 20% of total overall traffic. So they're color coordinated with this over here. So you see Google is this big purple area here. Facebook is the darker color here, I think that is. Yeah, that's the darker color. And then green is Google+. So if you want it, we're still going to check the effectiveness, right? So if you come on here, we're waiting. Twitter's way down here. So it's obviously it's a very small amount, but you get to kind of gauge how effective your shit is, right? Because I got about the same amount of impressions between these two platforms, Facebook and Twitter, right? That Twitter actually had some more impressions, but how many people are doing the action that I actually want them to when they see my shit? Even though I got more impressions on Twitter, more people on Facebook actually clicked through and watched. So when I look at this, those are some of the things that, just the way that I think about it in terms of putting in the effort, and then also for the stuff on Twitter where I was talking about reaching out to people and commenting on topics that were similar to the topics that I posted about. I only started doing that probably in the last week or so. So that 28 days is not a full representation of the effort that I've been putting into it. Where I have been a little bit more consistent with not really actually. Facebook was about the same too. A little bit more on Facebook though than Twitter. So we'll see how that plays out as I do more of that on Twitter. And going forward. Anyway, this was a super long video. If you're still watching to this point, you're a fucking rock star. Just look in the mirror and just tell yourself how fucking awesome you are. And before you look in the mirror, though, just press that red button that says press subscribe. And then you get to see this fucking awesome mug in your newsfeed in the future. and I can give you more detailed updates like this going forward. Peace.